Generally, what is ethical is what is moral, and what is moral is what is ethical. But occasionally, these two ideas conflict with each other. And so today in police school, I'd like to share a perspective on the differences between morals and ethics and use a real world example of when these two ideas conflicted with each other. So, first, to explain what each of these are, ethics is a code of conduct within an organization. So, it could be a social structure or a professional structure, something man made. Um, Ethics are established to avoid wrongdoing so as not to disgrace that organization, so as not to bring dishonor to it. In order to have ethics, there has to be that structure in place first. All right, first, we create this business. This business has this goal that we want to accomplish. Now we need a code of conduct and a way to follow to keep our employees in line so they don't bring disgrace upon this organization. Um, Ethics are looked at through the lens of objectivity. So, depending on what others see you do, um, determines whether it's ethical or not. Um, Ethics can vary between the context and the application. So there may not be consistency within that organization, and there's usually a reason for it, but still there's no consistency there. Uh, a person can follow ethical principles and have no sense of morality, no sense of moral independence, the inability to think about these things, but they can still act in a ethical fashion. Ethics are governed by the professional guidelines within a specific time and place. So these social or professional structures that we create are just that. They are man made and one day they will dissolve. But while they are in place, they are governed by um, the ethical guidelines that they have set in place. And so, what I mean by that is, if you look throughout history, countries come and go, businesses come and go, stuff like that, social structures, etc. Ethics, they already have the decision made beforehand, so you don't have to think about it. They don't leave it up to the employee or whatever participant of the organization to make the decision. So there's no moral autonomy involved. And lastly, ethics could be used as an external motivator, meaning you could get somebody to do the right thing because of the consequence instead of doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do. So we'll turn over to morals now. Morals is a personal belief system, arguably stemming from God and a lot of religions, and arguably you can't have morals without God. Morals is more focused behind the intent than the action, the means, not necessarily the ends. It is subjective, so it depends on the individual and what they have critically thought about. It requires independent thinking, like I just said. It takes some thought. You can't just say, oh, this is moral because I decided to. There has to be some thought behind your action if you want to act in a moral way. Um, with morals, you have the ability to apply discretion, whereas with ethics, the decision is generally already made. There's already a way to do this that we've decided, and you do it this way. There's consistency through different applications. So you can come across a myriad of different situations, or you can come up with a myriad of different situations. And what morals is more focused on is who you are as a person through the decisions that you make rather than that specific context, that specific situation. Morals can change over time. They can develop and evolve with the person, and there's nothing wrong with that. What it shows is one's ability to gain consciousness, gain awareness, to progress and develop as one should throughout life. So Again, it's okay that they may change over time. What you value may change over time. You can maintain moral integrity without following ethical guidelines. So you can remain true to yourself without remaining true to the organization you are a part of. We'll come back and hit that one a little more in a minute. Morals transcend cultural norms. So every culture has its norms, whether they intended them or not, right? We're part of this culture that we do things this way, or whatever it may be. Those cultural norms are developed over time and through tradition, but you can have the ability to act morally without being in line with those cultural norms. Morals deal with issues open to one's choice. So whereas ethics, the decision is already made. When you come across this instance, this situation, handle it this way. Morals are a little more open-ended to make that decision, which is why discretion can be applied. Lastly, morals require courage and integrity to hold true to oneself. As C.S. Lewis points out, courage is the ultimate value, because without courage, at the breaking point, you will not hold true to any other value that you have. So courage to hold true to your morality is the most important. And that's what I mean by integrity, is being true to oneself and what you value. So the real life example that I would like to use is the situation with Greg Anderson, the former cop in the state of Washington. I'll try and find a link and add it below the video, but it has been viral, so I think most people understand what I'm referring to. Given these definitions and that incident, I would say that Greg Anderson did not act in an ethical manner, right? These codes of conduct that were established previously, he failed to adhere to, and did not, or openly defied chain of command, and therefore did not act in an ethical manner, which is why I understand why his department either fired him or gave him the option to leave, whatever it may be. That being said, I believe he is moral to the nth degree. He had the courage and integrity to hold true to what he valued most, which cost him that particular profession. And if you watched his 2 videos about the incident, it was kind of interesting to hear that initially his chain of command supported him, probably because they were immoral initially, and then they realized it wasn't in line with the ethics that are in place. Now I'm risking a lot, and I don't want to, so I'm going to fall back on this and hang him out to dry. Also, there's some irony involved here with Greg Anderson calling for officers to hold themselves accountable to what this country values. And then a few weeks later, after what happened to him, we're dealing with current events in this country where everybody's calling for officers to be held more accountable. Ironic. Again, ethics stem from morals ultimately, but they're in line with something that we make up as people, things that don't really exist, whereas moral values are true things that do exist. So I would finish with these last couple of thoughts. You don't need permission to do the right thing, and if you think you need permission to do the right thing, then you lack the courage to do the right thing on your own. I would say the chief that I work for understands the difference between ethics and morals, and I appreciate that, because what he has told us is don't let policy get in the way of making a good decision, and I appreciate that. And that's exactly what this is talking about. Sometimes the policy fails to recognize a specific situation or says it needs to be handled this way, but the officer knows that the moral thing to do would be handling it a different way. And so it gives the officers that discretion to apply a different decision to that end. Lastly, I'll leave you with a quote from Ayn Rand. An irrational society is a society of moral cowards. Don't be a moral coward, be dangerous.